If only somebody hadn't wrecked the car. God, unbelievable.
Oh, I would hate to be that guy. Oh, come on, don't be that way. You know I didn't mean to do it.
Of course not. Sabotage is far beyond you. It's futile.
Rise and shine, princess.
Tremors. Now you did it.
Just call me Titan.
Morning there, buddy.
Eyes open.
And he's up.
Not technically up.
Not technically having our automobile repaired and heading to Corthus, then?
No turning back now, Your Highness. Gotta pay his enormousness a visit.
Yeah. Wonder what it's like outside. Wow! Couldn't ask for better weather.
Ah, good day for walking. Aren't we lucky?
Welcome back to part 57 of Final Fantasy 15, where today we're covering the original episode Duscae that released about 2 years before the release of the main game, and acted as a very early alpha build to the game. The entire idea of this episode is that the cars broke down and they need 20,000 gil to fix the car, and the only way to get the gil to do that is to hunt down Deadeye, if you remember that quest that we did in the main game. I won't be showing off everything that happens in this, because a lot of it plays out very similar, but I'll be showing out what the gameplay difference was, because the gameplay is surprisingly different. You can see even now that the HUD is very different to how it ends up in the main game. It's the objective being on the side and not taking up the middle, the HP bars being more connected instead of Noctis's being bigger, and the MP bar being a lot less noticeable. Also, circle is jump in this. Just putting it out there. In the main game, circle is attack. In this, it's jump. So there's many points in this where enemy will spawn and you'll see me just jump, because it's not like when you play a game in the same genre and you get the odd button like mixed up because they're slightly different controls. No. This is the same game. This is an earlier build of it before the main game was released, and it's got completely different controls. Square is attack. X is warp strike. You can't do a warp strike like in the open field. You have to do it in combat, so you can't warp around to get around quickly. L1 is your magic-y evade. The lock-on works different in this, because if you just tap it, you'll let go, but if you hold it on, you'll eventually see like the circle get bigger around what you're locked onto, and then when it reaches like the bit as big as it's going to get, then if you let go of the lock-on, it will stay there. Or if you push in the right stick, which is still the same from the main game, it'll then do the hard lock. Attacking in this game, in this version of the game, is very different as well. Instead of picking your weapon and having it, you instead tie a weapon. Also, you're going to see me mix up the menus a lot because it's back to front in all of this. What's pause in the main game is map and menu in this, and what's menu in the other is pause, so it's proper all over the place. The way it works now in this is depending on what the status of the attack is, depends on what weapon you use. So you set a weapon as initial strike weapon, and it will use that weapon on the first hit. You set a weapon on combo weapon, and so when you're doing the combo afterwards, it will do that weapon. Aerial attack has one. Counter attack, things like that. Eventually I bring it up, I can't remember when. Alright, this is me trying to see if I can bring up any kind of control scheme, so I can at least look at the control scheme. But it doesn't happen.
I don't think we'll be befriending any.
So yeah, it's X to warp strike. Triangle is techniques. Instead of it being tied into the moveset like it is in 15, it had a dedicated button. You tap left or right on the D-pad to change between them, and then tap triangle and you'd use it. In this, you had Drain Blade, Dragoon Jump, like I forget what it's called, but it's like a really long stab, and then obviously good old Tempest, where you use the greatsword and do a double spin. But because the Tempest on a button, it's kind of a little bit powerful. Like, you see me spam it during this, that you can just keep on using it. Full Thrust, by the way, it was called. Also, because this is like 2 years prior, although it's the same English voice cast, you might notice that some of them sound a little bit different. In particular, Ray Chaser's Noctis. They hadn't really committed to the idea they wanted to do with Noctis' character. So throughout this, he will sound significantly deeper voiced than he did in the main game. This actually applied to the Platinum demo as well. The Platinum demo still used Ray Chase's older Noctis voice, while the main game also uses his newer one. Yeah, here's where I bring it up. You have Crush, Ravage, Vanquish, Counter, and Descent. Descent being your aerial attack, Crush being first strike, Ravage being your combo. Vanquish, I think, is like an end of the combo, like finishing blow, and Counter is obviously counter. And here's me fiddling with it, and then I realised that you can only use a weapon for one move, so that when I equip it on one, it de-equips it from the other. So it's like, oh, okay. If you don't have any equipped, use the Avenger, which the Avenger was what eventually became the Engine Blade. Like, it's what, like, the Avenger was what the original starting weapon was going to be for Noxus before it became the Engine Blade. And to be honest, I'm happy they changed it to a more traditional, if simpler, way of doing the controls, because the way they had it in this was kinda crap. Like, adjusting to one weapon per move is kind of wonky as shit. Although this is me doing the hard lock-on, it's why the lock-on has got like an extra bracket on it now. Also, like, there's some things I actually do like about it though, as you might have noticed. When an enemy goes to do an attack that you can counter, instead of making a big song and dance and putting the button in the center of the screen, you get a little like combat indicator where it's like the red line with 3 crosses through it. And it shows what direction the attack's coming from. So all you need to do is block it on your own. You don't need to be told to press a button in the middle of the screen. It tells you damage is coming and you should act on it. Unlike what we get in the main game, it doesn't assume the player's a retard. It does the whole Spidey sense and just says, hey, danger's on its way, press. Think about it, either avoid or press out of the way.
Do you guys see what I see? Yeah.
Also, the amount of dialogue the characters have is very limited, to such an extent that in some parts of this, instead of talking, you hear like a little beep sound and words will just appear at the bottom of the screen because they didn't do the dialogue for it.
Right.
I remember when it first came out, we all kind of just assumed that there was some kind of telepathic communication that they could do between them. But no, it was more about that they didn't want to spend too much effort in an early alphabet build and wanted to carry on, you know, making the game. The thing that they didn't even finish until a year after its release. Now, I say that I know the reasoning for why the development happened as it was. It was more on Square Enix's part of saying, yeah, look, we've given you unlimited funds and do whatever you want, but you're not stopping. Like, the game's got to come out at some point, sort of mentality. I'm a bit gutted that forest dungeon never came to be, where you could climb the trees and whatnot, because that looked cool in the trailers if you ever seen it. But, oh well, beggars can't be choosers. But hearing the episode Arden's going to be the last DLC for it, as much as it might be a bit disheartening that we're not getting episode RNA, Luna and Noctis, at the same time I'm kind of happy because I want them to move on. I want to see from all the lessons in the development they learned either before and after the game's release and with Royal Edition and whatnot, all the lessons they've learned with Final Fantasy 15, how they take it on with 16. I am genuinely looking forward to 16 being a game that just took everything that 15 learned and running with it, sort of thing.
The Imperial Army?
What the hell are they doing here?
Also, this is the last combat section you're going to see me just do, because at this point you've seen the combat and seen how it works, and I've shown off pretty much everything there is to show, so I start cutting to what's different. The main thing being is that instead of being able to go straight into Deadeye's camp and just killing him, you have to hunt for clues as to where he is in said camp, which doesn't take that long. There's 6 clues and you need to find 3 of them. Also, the music, you might notice, the Imperials came down, they didn't play the Imperial battle theme. That's because it wasn't the Imperial battle theme, that battle theme when the game first came out. What became the Imperial battle theme for us in the main game was actually the nighttime theme when you're here, nighttime or in caves. So you'll hear it when the sun goes down or when we're in a cave, which I know happens at least once in this episode, in this alpha. Also, you might notice there's like a bit of, like, there's an extra block of blue on the edges of the screen that's just there, like on the far right edge of the screen. I don't know why that's there. Like, I didn't notice it in my recording because my TV, it's only a 23-inch TV, and so the corners are always cut off on the games. So what I always do in games that I accepted, like the main game of Final Fantasy 15, you might have noticed it on some of the older videos, there's like a black box on the very edge. That's just because of where I have the border set on my PlayStation 4, so it goes in the box and I can see everything. And then in edit, I zoom it in just that little bit, and it covers up the whole screen. Episode Duscae doesn't work with that, so it does go beyond the edge of my screen. This isn't zoomed in. This is what it is. So I didn't notice that there was just that weird block of edge on all the blue bars until now when I'm going to record it, or how there's all this empty space around the edge of the screen always. It's kind of weird. Also, same with the load screens. The load screen has this giant ass black box that makes up the entire bottom half of it, which is just like, oh, okay, that's not at all like classy and clean. Also, they make you go camp here before you go Deadeye. Well, I said it, you don't have to, but for the sake of showing it off. Also, you're going to see me barely fight anything because your experience doesn't matter. Deadeye doesn't matter, like what level you are, because the way you're supposed to beat it is extremely scripted. Also, yeah, when you cook something, you don't see it moving, you just get a picture, you get a still image of it. And you don't get to choose what to cook either. Ignis decides for you. It says, new techniques are not available in episode Duscae. Funnily enough, new techniques are never available to be learnt through level ups in this, so that's a inverted lie. Like, they didn't mean to make it like that, but it's how it ended up. So I don't skip that because the fanfare is slightly different in Duscae from the main game. Like, it hasn't got as many instruments on it. And you also get introduced to an on-tour quest. This is the only one I do because it introduces the old version of crosslinks and just how god tier overpowered. Fuck. English, Rob, do you speak it? They were in Duscae. Only problem is, and you're going to see a hard cut eventually, where it asks us to go is on the opposite end of the arena it gives. And keep in mind, you only have access to the Duscae region and only a part of it. You only get to go as far as like a brick wall, an invisible brick wall, just before the actual disc. Which I find quite funny. Once you've played the main game, like, the objective for this is kind of hilarious when you think about it. Because their objective is to repair the car, because there's no way they'll make it to the Corvus disc on foot. If you know the main game, you know, like, it's in walking distance. It really is in walking distance. Like, that's complete bollocks. But we didn't know that in Duscae. Like, we had our theories, because you could break through the wall kind of easily. Like, the cars driving around don't stop as quick as they should. Like, so you can just dive in the way and get it to push you through the wall. But we all assumed that it was just placeholder and it was actually going to be much further. But no. The way cross chains worked in this is that when an enemy's downed, a teammate has to bring it up and say, oh, why don't we cross chain? And then there'll be a zone that you need to stand in and it will initiate. Whilst in the main game, obviously, it's when an enemy is knocked down, there's a chance that an objective marker will kick in, and if you warp strike them when they're downed, it will then kick off. The main difference being that it's not infinite like I thought it was in the main game, but it does cap at 15 instead of 10. And in this you'll only be able to see it with Gladio, because Gladio is the only one with us. But you can make it so when you get to 15, you hit triangle, and Gladio will do a super strong attack. They say this is level 1 after a free strike. You can go up to level 5, and look, it killed the fucking thing. If you have it up to level 5, Gladio will then do a super strike, then Prompto will do a super strike, then Ignis will do a super strike, and then Noctis will do his attack. Which I guarantee, with only the exception being the extra super bosses they added to episode Duscae 2.0, it will one-shot pretty much everything if you do it. I'll say, and Deadeye. Deadeye probably won't one-shot. This is me showing just how far you can go with it on this one. Like, I don't do the objective and do crossbone 2, I just show off how far you can take this. If you press square again beyond 15, you kind of lose your opportunity to use crossbone, so I don't realise it here, so when I hit 15 I just press square again, but you should really press triangle. Because look, Noxus just does his own attack, and you miss out on having everyone to attack instead. And you might also notice as well, it's kind of hard to tell, like, I noticed it more when playing, the recording doesn't really show it off as much. But there is actually an ever so slight colour filter on the game of episode Duscae. I don't know why, it doesn't exist in the main game, but it exists here. There is a slight colour filter, and it makes the grass and the bushes and the trees pop out just a little bit more, but makes the sky look a bit greyer, and when we go into a cave, makes it a little bit harder to see. Sorry, that's the first of many times I pressed the wrong button. I pressed triangle to warp strike there and I did a technique. Like, feel free to work out yourself, like, how many of these strikes are not intentional. Or how many times, like, I'll go to see an attack coming and I just bop them and then get whacked because I hit square to dodge it. And square's attacking this. Also, there's no way to bring up a stamina bar when you sprint, so you'll see me at random points just stop sprinting because I didn't know. And this has the much worse version of it because you just can't do anything. Like, when you run out of stamina, not just grinds to a complete halt. You can't stop jump, you can't start moving, at least jog. No, you just grind to a halt for a few seconds. And it's going to ask you to go back to camp. And you have to actually warp there yourself. And you get that little thing there. That's the introduction to pictures. Prompto doesn't take any pictures in this. Believe it or not, they hadn't actually even made that a gimmick with Prompto yet. Prompto doesn't have any kind of fascination or desire to take pictures in any of this. They hadn't given that to him. I cut there because it's exactly the same. This section is exactly the same as well, and I was tempted to cut it, but I thought I'd at least show it because the cutscene plays out a little different because I wanted to show what I meant of they didn't record every line. Even though this is an important moment, look, when they start talking in a sec, you'll just hear like a little sound effect and the writing will be in blue to let you know that they are talking, they just haven't put it in yet. Actually, I say that, I think Deadeye's animation might be a little different here. So I can't remember how the actual hunt for Deadeye in the main game went. And this is probably the most evident when we was in that cave, like that bit there just for a second ago. What I mean of the colour filter, like, it's a lot more noticeable when we're in here that it just looks different from how it looked in the main game. See? Like, all the grass and the moss on the walls has like a darker shade, a more detailed shade of green. That makes it really stand out more, but when you look at the fog in the background, it just looks even less interesting than it did in the main game when it came to fog effects. And then he's gonna dip his head down through this hole. Yeah, hi Deadeye. And the rest of this plays out the same until we get to Deadeye's hideout. So we're going to have to do the follow him in the fog thing again in a minute. Yeah, now's the follow him in the fog. He takes the exact same path, it's the same thing, so I just like to cut this as well in the end. Then when you get to the other side and actually get to Deadeye's lair, this is where things change. In the main game, you just go and kick his ass and kill him. In this, they actually devise a plan on how to effectively deal with Deadeye as he moves around the background over there. In the main game, when we got to it, I mentioned that there was a big red drum barrel thing that had no purpose in the main game, but just there anyway. That's because it was there in episode Duscae, and despite not being relevant to anything anymore, they left in there. Probably is just sort of a little like fragment of the past. Then you're gonna see that as we go ahead here. That. Like Iggy's gonna lead it to us and say, okay, we're gonna have Prompto shoot it when Deadeye's near it to make it explode.
Yes, sir.
And we're gonna have Gladio stand back up on top of the ledge we was on to jump down and strike it. And then Noct is gonna be the bait. And Iggy doesn't have to do anything because he was the planner. Like, don't you understand how school projects work? Whoever made the plan doesn't have to do anything.
Highness, focus.
You will wake Deadeye, warp round to us. The warp striking is like point warping even is a little finicky in episode Duscae. Like it was as polished as it ended up being in the main game. And what I mean is you're gonna see me point warp fine the first time, point warp fine the second time, and despite looking at where I wanted to go, point warp will just not work in my favour. Because I was looking back over there. I know I like switched the camera back towards it, but still. Thankfully Deadeye is retarded and will just keep on following you like a moron the whole way there. But when you get here, a little cutscene will play out where Deadeye just took the bait like a champ.
Going for it.
Also, I don't press a button here and it does it anyway. Because I thought it was just a cutscene, so I didn't even pick up the controller. Noctis just did that anyway.
Oh yeah.
And they think, yeah, we're done, yeah.
History here.
That's what I call teamwork.
Impeccable.
But not quite. And now we've got to leap, run away, and then come back. But it doesn't tell you to run away straight away. It asks you to fight him first, and then later on they go, yeah, we're not winning this, let's run away. To give the idea that in the main game there's going to be situations where it's better for you to run away than to fight on. And then the game ended up being piss easy, so you know. And they mentioned about, oh by the way, it is blind on one side, but it really doesn't mean much. This fucker will turn on you and just whack you anyway. And we actually do decent damage before the game eventually tells us to book it. Eventually I just let it beat me around just because I wanted the objective marker to tell us to move on. So I just sort of kind of stand and take it. Like that. Then Iggy, you might have noticed that. Iggy used a potion on us. We didn't have to tell him to do it. We didn't have to use it ourselves. He used one of our potions on us immediately so he didn't have to heal us. I'm glad they removed that, to be honest. Can you imagine that? Like, you're like, ah, okay, I'll go wait for someone to revive me. Why have they just used one of my potions? It'd be like when you forget to take the potions off Donald and Goofy in Kingdom Hearts, and they just use it, and you sit there and go, nah, fuck! Because you know they've just wasted one of your potions. Speaking of which, Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out on Tuesday. Like, that's a bit of a madness. Also, the lag like, ate an input there. It didn't let me go through the vent like the first time the input came up. It had to wait till the second time.
Anybody else hear that?
It's a chocobo call.
Also, despite the Wizard's Chocobo post being here, and there being a side quest where you have to find a chocobo, you can't ride any chocobos in this. They decided that I wasn't allowed in the episode Duscae. You're not allowed to have fun. But after this, this version of Wiz is a lot moodier and a lot less helpful than the one we got when we get in the main game. See? And the cave it asks us to go to is actually the cave where we got Ramu. And it's the same cave here. The only thing different is that over half of it doesn't exist anymore. You're going to see early on, we end up having to go through like a crevice wall. See, there it is.
It's a little sketchy to me.
And unlike the main game where it's blocked off until you do what it asks you to, you can enter this as soon as you start if you know it's here. You can end episode Duscae like really fucking quickly if you just go here, get it, and go to Deadeye and kill it. But as I said, but over half this cave doesn't exist, and the boss fight at the end also doesn't exist, so you won't be fighting Naga at the end of this. Despite the fact Naga kidnaps Prompto again, they still have that bit, and they still have Prompto make the Indiana Jones reference, but no, you just don't fight it. I guess they just wanted to leave that as a little fun tease and then just didn't do anything with it. But you'll notice here, like, we're skipping a large chunk of what would be the cave, which is why this wall climb through is a lot bigger than it should be.
I think I'm hyperventilating.
Because we're just skipping past it all. Like, they haven't finished it yet, so it doesn't exist. And there's no way to get new recipes with Ignis, so we have actually now heard the last of "That's it! I've come up with a new recipe!" So anyone who's doing any kind of tally, which if you were through this Let's Play, I'm sorry, but you can get your final tally now. You're not going to hear it again unless for some reason Arden does it to be a dick in episode Arden. Like, he might do. I can see him doing that. Like, can you imagine it? That's it. I've come up with a new recipe. And I've downed DePaul in all his majesty. I say that, I still haven't watched episode Arden Prologue. Because they made like a one-off anime special to give you an idea of what episode Arden's going to be, like the prologue introduction. Sort of what they did with the main game, where they did an anime and a fucking film that you needed to watch to understand 100% what's going on. Like, I've done my best to try and explain everything, and you'll notice that I've almost never mentioned the anime, because it's just an introductory piece. It just gives you an idea of what all the characters were like when they were kids, really, when they were younger, and that's about it. Like, it's not that significant to anything. The only one that was really significant to the plot was Prompto's in episode Prompto, and that's it. But nearly there. And also, yeah, we're in the cave, so the quote-unquote nighttime battle theme is playing. The theme that became the Imperial's battle theme.
It never ends.
Yeah, you're gonna see me start trying to skip encounters as well as we go through here, because you can pick up items in combat, unlike in the main game where it stops you if you're in combat. So I just pick up what I need to and keep on moving, because experience doesn't matter. Also, here I go the wrong way. I take a left instead of a right. The left just takes you back up and round like so. See, so I'm back here now, so I'm like, oh, oops. Also, poison can't kill, so my HP is stuck at 1. Also, that one-off attack, that wasn't me trying to attack, that's me trying to roll on the landing. But of course, you know, squares attack and not roll. And the music doesn't just cut out like it does in the main game. They make it so it fades out at the end of combat, which I much prefer. Unfortunately, you can't skip this. Like in the main game, if you're right up against the wall when it starts and mashing the crap out of X, you get a split second to interact with it. Because the combat counter doesn't start straight away. So you can actually completely skip it. Whilst in this, they make the combat encounter start first, then it does it. Which is a bit weird that they decided to flip that round in the main game, but whatever. This is me trying to build up enough for Tempest again, just so because there's so many of them here, and that's when I realised that the game gives you a shit ton of MP if you whack an enemy. Look, we're already right near the top for me to be able to spam Tempest again. Also, the armor good does exist in this, but the way it works in this is a bit different. Like, we'll get it in a sec. The way it works, instead of it having its own meter like it does in the main game, it's just when you're on max magic, you can use it. Which is a hell of a lot more broken, and you can understand exactly why they changed that. but you only have 2 arms on the armor. You have, I can't remember what ones they are. I hope they'll try and spot them and work them out. But you only have 2 armor arms on it, so oh well. And it gives you unlimited NP. Well, I say that it's sort of like. Do you remember Persona 4 Arena Ultimax when you played as a shadow, when you maxed out your MP and then went into berserk mode, you could use all your super meter like as much as you wanted, but the meter was always ticking down? That's kind of what it works like on this. You can spam techniques infinitely and it won't cost them the MP, but the MP is constantly ticking down. Like I said, I know that when you used it during the berserk mode shadows, it did cost a little bit, but it just didn't cost as much, so you could use it much more. But that's the point I'm making.
You will, if you live long enough. I wouldn't count on that myself.
This is when we get Armiger. Literally, it's just here, by the way. This ancient blade, it doesn't even look like any of the other Armiger arms. It's just here.
Slow down a sec.
And you just move on. To be fair, you can equip the ancient blade as an actual weapon. I don't realise I can until like after I finished recording, so you don't see it here, but you can. You see, there's Prompto getting taken by the Naga, but we won't fight the Naga. It's just there for the sake of making an Indiana Jones reference in a minute. That's it. As soon as we come round here, well, Prompto's down there.
I can't hear you.
That's it. I quit. What the hell are we doing here? Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
See?
They tried to drag me off.
This encounter, you're going to see a nice little edit here, because I go to run from it because I really couldn't be fucked. I got to where you need to go, because by the way, this is the end of the dungeon. But we're already at the end, that's what I mean. And so as soon as we get here, you're going to just see a nice little cut, because I couldn't interact with it until the enemies were dead. There it is. And that's as easy as that in getting Ramu in this version of the game. And that's it, we have Ramu. And that's all that's left to do is now go back to Deadeye and cut and use Ramu on it. Summons work differently as well, and once again are far more powerful than what they made them in the main game, and I completely understand why. In the main game, it's a chance system at any point during select encounters. I say that because I say it's more the other way. There's select encounters where you can't use it, but most you can. And it's just if you linger around in a fight, eventually, through sheer chance, it will eventually give one up. In Duscae, it's the moment Noctis's HP hits 0, you can do it. Whenever you want, you can just do it.
I'm going all out.
It's ridiculous, but you can. So we're gonna fight Deadeye for a little bit until he takes us down. So I wanted to see how far I could get before he actually knocks us down. But as soon as he knocks us down, it just comes up saying use Ramu. As soon as we go down, like the very moment, see? This is what they originally planned it to be. People would just go into fights and immediately do it. The only trade-off is that you don't get experience when you use it, but that doesn't matter if you can just use a summon for every single fight. Beating the game on level 1 would be a complete breeze if you could just summon literally every single fight. And there we go, it's dead. And that's it. That's the whole of the episode of Duscae DLC, pretty much. Also, yeah, that happened. That isn't on the recording, it's not on your phone or anything like that. No. The game's audio just stopped for a few seconds. And it's not like it went silent. No, it stopped and then came back. And the obvious evidence of it is that it doesn't. We don't lose any of Prompto's dialogue. It just paused it for a bit.
Trade that behemoth sword for a behemoth cash.
Also, despite the fact we're not at Hammerhead, Cindy's here, so oh well. And she even mentions Hammerhead, so
Hey there.
hey. Also, this menu sucks.
Much obliged.
Like, they wanted to make it so they could keep Noctis and the guy like on screen, but I'm happy they changed it to just a proper menu, because that sucks. It's so small. But since it's sold for 25,000 gil, you get 20,000 to pay off the car and 5,000 for yourself.
Hey, y'all about ready to settle up?
Ready as we'll ever be.
Didn't mean to keep you.
Also, Cindy's like,
Oh, don't
Cindy has even less personality than she did in the main game in this.
We have what was in
And Prompto having a crush on Cindy doesn't exist in this. It's instead of everyone is a little bit flirty with Cindy. And I mean that. You'll see it in the cutscene in a minute. Literally everyone is just a little bit flirty with Cindy. Like, it's all playful friendly, like it's nothing like romantic flirty, but it's just like when you play the main game and like they're really cold towards Cindy except Prompto, and then you go to this, like just well, just listen for yourself really.
Well, here she is. Come see for yourself. She's primed, prim, and proper. I reckon you won't find a loose nut or bolt on her.
We're in your debt.
I'll say you are. I souped her up a bunch for you. I should charge you, but I'm not gonna. This one's on the house.
That's awfully nice of you.
Well, just make sure y'all come back to Hammerhead now, you hear?
Count on it. Nowhere else we'd take it.
Don't you forget it. Hop in.
Right.
Also, for some reason, you might have noticed, the steering wheel is on the correct side of the vehicle and not the left side, because for some reason, Regalia is now apparently made in the UK. Only for episode Duscae though. Obviously in the main game it's flipped around, but
Won't
still.
be about repairs next
Odd
time.
thing for them to change.
Well, that's fine by me. We can tune her up however you like in the garage. All you gotta do is just bring her on in.
So it's alright if we call you?
Sure is. Pawpaw'd love having someone to talk to.
We'll bring something by when we visit. For Sid, of course.
Yeah. Time to hit the road. Thanks again, Cindy.
Y'all take care out there.
And just like that, we're done. And I mean we're done. With the exception of episode Arden and the Ifrit fight that we can't do, everything is finished. So I'm playing the Royal Edition's credits from the main game now, because this journey is over. And holy shit, I can't believe we're here. I might end up repeating myself from when we finished the main game a few times, but if you haven't given this game a chance, I really feel you should. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it has a bigger heart than any Final Fantasy game I've seen in years, or any Square Enix game I've seen in years. And to me, that's what counts. Like, they don't have to be perfect as long as I feel like they've tried. Yeah, sometimes it helps, like sometimes like, they can try their hardest and still fail miserably, and you can tell. But this game doesn't fail miserably. It actually does a hell of a lot of things really well. I'm looking forward to episode Arden in March, because I love this game. It's just far from perfect. And I really hope that this development team continues to exceed my expectations and grow as a studio, because Final Fantasy 16 is only a few years out. It's only going to be a few years out at this point. With 15's development completely wrapping up. Yes, it might be quite different with the lead director leaving the Final Fantasy studio to pursue his own design, his own path, and I very much look forward to whatever he does in the future. But that's it. I'm just... there's nothing new I can really say other than just give this game a shot. The Royal Edition isn't that expensive now, and the PC edition is the Royal Edition anyway, so if you have a strong enough PC, go for it. There's a lot of magic, a lot of love, and a lot of time put into this little gem of a game. And for a game that's over 2 years old now, it still keeps on giving me new memories and new reasons to love it. I have thoroughly enjoyed making this Let's Play for you guys, even if I did rush this end bit a little bit, just because I wanted to make sure it was finished before Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, because I will be taking a break to play Kingdom Hearts 3 when it releases on Tuesday. After that though, a new Let's Play has partially been recorded, and it's actually started recording since Boxing Day gone. So there's actually quite a lot of it that's been recorded and ready to go. I just need to start editing for it and uploading it. And it'll be a live Let's Play as well, so people who have missed me playing live and stumbling over myself more and more have something to look forward to in that. But that being said, thanks for the memories. And actually, the last thing I'm gonna say, because I've been thinking about talking about this, and I think there's no better time than right now. Oh fuck, I missed Bismarck. I forgot to show off Bismarck in that pit. Oops, oh well. If this runs over into the slideshow, I was going to do it at the end, so be it, but this Let's Play has been important to me as well. Not just in terms of because of the game, but in terms of my ability as a Let's Player, as an editor. As some of you may know, I've never done any kind of class, any kind of training, anything whatsoever into editing or how to work this. Everything you've seen and everything on this channel has been entirely off of my own back of just trial and errors, of just trying off my own back. And without meaning to blow my own trumpet, this is my personal greatest achievement so far of what I've done with my editing. It's far from perfect and far, far away from the standard of many other YouTubers you can find, in terms of audio quality, in terms of performance, in terms of just editability. But for someone who's never had any real training, any real experience, and done it solely off my own back, way back since Devil May Cry 4, I'm proud of myself for this. I've really enjoyed doing this Let's Play, and I hope you've really enjoyed following along, and hopefully seeing just how much I've started to try and improve as we go along. But I'm bleeding into the slideshow of all the pictures in this now, so I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you guys have really, really enjoyed this, and if you stuck along for the entirety of this Let's Play, God bless you, because you're my kind of person. But until then, you guys take care now, and keep on being awesome. Bye bye.
Thank you.